lighting of the lamp ceremony and smoking ceremony, and also especially we have some international guests all the way from India. We want to do a bit of an explanation of why it is important for us to recognize our First Nation and Indigenous people, and for us to also really reinforce that we are in this land which belongs to the First Nation and Indigenous peoples. To give a bit of an overview and also kick off the smoking ceremony, I invite my colleague Indu Balachandran.
Good morning and namaskaram, everyone. My name is Indu Balachandran. I have had the joy of working with the Australia-India Business Council to engage First Nations peoples and businesses. For those of you who are from these lands, you are familiar with the protocol of acknowledging or welcoming to country. In this case, it's acknowledgement. For those of you who are from overseas, the protocol in Australia is to acknowledge the country that we are on and to acknowledge its traditional owners and custodians. Today we are on the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I acknowledge these peoples, their elders past and present, and also express our gratitude to them for caring for this place so that we might enjoy it today. It's particularly important, I think, for us today as we start the journey at AIIBS in engaging with First Nations people, and also it's a way for us as migrants to be respectful and truthful in how we settle on these lands. So I'm really pleased to be doing this today. We are kicking off today with a smoking ceremony, which is a traditional protocol as well. And to do that, we have two gentlemen from Kumari who are going to come through now and introduce the smoking and give you a little bit of a sense of how ceremony is done here. So welcome, Kumari.
Thank you and welcome to Australia. Welcome to the lands of our ancestors and our people that we stand along from past to our present to the futures and before their bigger future. What we're going to do today with some of our ceremony smoke, Brother Marawa is going to walk around, and if you want, you may within beautiful eucalyptus and the bottles that we have from this country. So we're doing that ceremony to bless you, but also to take away all your worries and bring in you, but also give back to the ancestors. I'll play a little bit of this. You all know this is, don't you? Yep, I'll tell you a few names later, but we'll call this one that we're playing today, Yiggy Yiggy. So, can you all say yigi yigi? Yigi yigi. Can you all say bandala? Mato? Ian duk duk? Yuriki? Idati? And my favorite, gur mur gamba. So you have the beautiful sounds of our Kumari. So Kumari and Murray together, we represent the east coast of the Sunrise people. All the way from the top of Cape York through to the Gulf, all the way up to the last islands we have up there. We've got Queensland for you, all the way down to Tasmania and down to the greatness. So thank you very much, and thank you for being blessed with our day. May you have a great what you have here, a corporate event, and then we'll probably see you a bit later tonight if you all want to go up and dance.
Thank you. Now we'll kick off our traditional Indian lighting lamp ceremony. I'll invite Indu and Javed to come to the front, and I invite some of our guests, Manish Gupta ji, Honourable Consul General of India, Sydney, Honourable Scott Farlow, MLC, Honourable Anulak Chatamong, Deepak Bagla ji, Honourable Robin Preston, Deputy Lord Mayor Barbara Ward, Honourable Andrew Robb and Jody McKay as well. Please join us. We've got, and if you can join us. This is to invoke divine blessings and kick off in our traditional Indian way as well. Of course, with technology now. Thank you. Thank you. Warami, greetings, namaskar, salam, sat sri akar to all of you. On behalf of Australia-India Business Council and as the chair of this Australia-India International Business Summit 2022, I welcome you all. We'll kick it off with a quick video. Thank you. Again, welcome to all of you. As we kick off this inaugural session of the Australia-India International Business Summit, I begin by also acknowledging the traditional owners of the land we are gathered here, the Gadigal people of Eora Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. I also recognize our Indigenous leaders and community leaders present here as well. A special acknowledgement to all of you. Thank you. On behalf of AIIBS, I'm really excited that we're kicking off the summit formally today. We did have a couple of amazing sessions yesterday, and we wanted to really make a statement and also really reinforce that we believe in our young business leaders. So we had an exhilarating session yesterday with our young business leaders and the startup and entrepreneurs. We also had a strong business-to-business connect session. Of course, we also eased the evening yesterday with a very engaging cocktail networking session, which really highlighted our core theme of AIIBS to strongly drive that strong people-to-people connect to drive and deliver business-to-business outcome. And that's one of the core themes of this summit that we have. The other themes, obviously, which resonates with the time we are celebrating India at 75, India's 75th year of independence, which has been a phenomenal set of celebration globally and especially in Australia, even with the lighting of the Opera House with the flag colors, which is a major statement of the new India, that new India has arrived and being recognized globally as well. So that's something which it resonates with all of us. We also want to showcase connecting with the new India opportunity. So that's going to be the core undercurrent of this whole summit throughout today, the gala dinner, even including yesterday, that we want every one of us here, no matter if you're a gov leader, industry partner leader, business leader, corporate leader, startup founder, professionals, all of us have a role to play to take this new India narrative and really build on from that, because this new India opportunity is for all of us as well. And that's going to be showcased as well. There are quite a lot of bilateral specific business sector, industry sector opportunities. Those will be highlighted through some of the sector specific sessions as well. We'll also have a strong focus in Australian Indigenous First Nation business opportunities. I believe this is quite unique, and we at AIIBS want to definitely take and drive that leadership in terms of bringing First Nations businesses and community on board to leverage this bilateral opportunity as well. Now, over the course of the next day and a half, we have got various sector-specific sessions, which I'll talk about in a moment. But again, as I kick off, I want to recognize the presence and welcome our Honourable Consul General of India, Sydney, Honourable Manish Gupta ji. He's been a great support for all of us here. Welcome, sir. I want to also welcome Honourable Scott Farlow, MLC, who's been a great supporter of AIIBS and also bilateral opportunities, taking quite a lot of strong leadership role, as well as representing the New South Wales government and the Premier today. I want to recognize Honourable Anulak Shantiwong, MP, who's made his presence here, and I really appreciate you taking time. I want to welcome Honourable Robin Preston, MP, who's made a presence representing the Honourable Trade Minister as well, Alistair Henskin, so really appreciate you taking time. I want to welcome somewhat special Mr. Deepak Bagla, the CEO of Invest India, one of the leading gov body and gov agencies out of India, really transforming the India engagement internationally. So Deepak Bagla, welcome, and also Sai Sudha representing the India and Oceania division as well, who all come all the way for supporting us for this session. I want to also recognize Deputy Lord Mayor Barbara Ward, who's made a great friend of us, who's made her presence here. Thank you. I want to recognize Honorable Andrew Robb, AO, our former Trade Minister of Australia. Great supporter, someone who has been a visionary and who has shaped this ECTA agreement and the free trade agreement, CICA agreement possible. I also, again, want to recognize Jody McKay, great friend of Australia-India business community, the community as well. Great to have you, and the color as well, recognize that color. And all the distinguished guests and industry partners. We've got our industry partners, our sponsors, our AIIBS leadership members, all of us here, and someone who, and my organizing team, and I want to especially recognize my co-chair, Sheba Nankyolier, who's been a great inspiration for all of us. So if I've missed anyone, apologies, but I want to recognize each one of you all for your support. The consulate team as well, so Sanjay, Sudeep and the team, they all supported us, all the AIIBS chapter leaders as well, and industry leaders as well. So all of you, I extend my warm welcome. During the course of the next day and a half, we've got immediately after the session, we have an education sector, EduTech, future skills, which is very important bilaterally, which is already, and we've got our Indian education minister around in Australia. So obviously this, it signifies that importance, and that's something which we are going to immediately after the session. And there are sessions around fintech, future of financial services, defense, aerospace, cybersecurity, tourism, hospitality, sports, esports, sport tech, First Nation, Indigenous Business Connect, and a lot of sessions later today. And we also have the gala dinner this evening. So I welcome you all. Tomorrow we've got a very targeted, very impactful session on advanced manufacturing, sustainable energy, sustainability, circular economy, and sustainable infrastructure. So that's kind of highlights and focuses on sectors which are going to see a lot of impact and acceleration between Australia and India. And we want to really enable this summit to spark off that engagement. And it's again, as I said, it's a spark off where all of us will have then more role to continue and spread the word and engage more people. So on that note, I again extend my warm welcome to all of you. Thank you. And I'll be the host for this morning, and I'll carry through the rest of the session as well. Now I invite our Honorable Consul General of India, Sydney, Manish Gupta ji, to say a few words as an opening note. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Namaskar. It's always a great delight for me to join the Friends of India and the Indian-Australian community. Trade, investment, these are very close to my heart, and whenever we have discussions like this, that gives us immense pleasure. On behalf of the community as well as the country also, that means a lot to us. And as Australia-India International Business Summit returns this year, in a much larger, with a much more comprehensive agenda that speaks by itself our determination and our vision for transforming India-Australia ties for the future. But thank you very much, Irfan, you and the entire AIIBS's dynamic team who have worked hard to put this event together. If you go through the agenda, I think encompasses all sectors, starting from our education, trade, tourism, critical rare earths, to the sustainability, defense, space, you name it. And this also indicates, our vision, the way both countries are working together to expand the depth of these ties. As we proceed, I would really like to acknowledge some of the dignitaries in this room, Honorable Scott Farlow, MLC, Ms. Robin, Mr. Analog, and a very distinguished visitor from India, Head of Invest India, Mr. Deepak Bagla, Sainji, and Mr. Andrew Robb. Sir, you have done a lot. You have worked hard to get the trade agreement happen. You have gone through the things. I think the spade work was done, even those times when these things didn't become a reality. Thank you very much for joining us today. I acknowledge the presence of former leader of opposition, a great friend of India, Ms. Jody McKay, Ms. Barbara Watt, and everyone over here in this room. Ladies and gentlemen, India and Australia, I think our history is much, much deeper than we people ever think of. India and Australia were once part of a common landmass several thousands of years ago when we were a supercontinent, the Gondwana land. But now we are joined by a common ocean, the Indian Ocean. And if you look from the Fremantle port of Western Australia to the shores of Chennai, there is no landmass in between. And this has shaped the nature of our ties and a common vision for a rules, open-based global order in the Indo-Pacific region. This is something that is guiding the vision of our top leadership, and we are working together. India's diplomatic presence in this country, it predates India's independence also. This is one of the few countries where India, before its independence, set up its presence, and the Consulate General of India came as a trade office way back in 1941. So this is how we have transformed over the years. Coming fast forward, I am reminded of the words of Prime Minister Modi when he visited Australia for the first time in 2014. He said, Australia is no longer at the periphery of India's vision. It is at the center of its thoughts. The words were monumental. We made a transformational shift, if you see, in the last 6 years or so. Starting for the very expansive bilateral agenda that we have right now, the comprehensive strategic partnership, our cooperation under the Quad framework, the recent signing of the Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, our partnership under the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, these all speaks, the direction which you want to take forward this relationship. And what gives me confidence is the vision of the new India that we have envisaged for ourselves. We often say about Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Bharat is not about just making India self-sustaining and self-reliant. It's about India becoming a force for global good and forging partnerships with our friends for the global good for everyone. By the end of this decade, India will become the third largest economy in the world. And we are well on track for that. And that's where we would like our partners to become part of the Indian growth story. There are very few countries in the world with India has so much synergies as we see here in Australia. We have tremendous complementarities. I think this is something where we can collaborate and cooperate much more. We have the right institutional structures in place that really need for any relationship to move forward. The Indian-Australian community over here that forms the bedrock of this relationship. The topic of this International Business Summit is very apt. From people to people connect to business outcomes. Because our ties right now are a lot more driven by the transactional nature. But the people-to-people connect is providing it the right ballast where we are going to go for sustaining long-term partnerships. And the early shoots are easily visible over here when I see from New South Wales. A lot of cooperation already is happening in the SME space. The Indian IT industry is making deep inroads cooperating with the universities here. And the ambition is bold, it's big. As we speak, our education minister is here in Australia. The only other day we were there at the university and we were talking about it. It was a discussion. The education sector represents $6 billion opportunity. The minister said, why can't we make it a $60 billion opportunity for India? When our commerce minister was here in April earlier this year, the same discussion took place in the University of New South Wales. It was all about getting more Indian students to this place. The minister was much more bolder than the vice chancellor. We discussed about having 4,000 Indian students at the new University of New South Wales. Honorable Minister says, why can't we have a vision 40,000 students? Let's look for dual degree programs that benefits both the countries. So this is the shape of transformative nature of ties that we are talking about these. And we have the ambition, we have the vision. Last 2.5 decades, a lot has been said about the Indian IT success story. It's there. But now, for the coming decades, I am convinced it's all about moving in a direction much more towards the advanced manufacturing and the renewable energy space. This is something, a lot is happening in this country, and Australia can fulfill India's needs. We can work together and make it a much larger opportunity. In conclusion, I'm confident we are going to have a great interactive evening today with all the friends. There will be lots of food of thought for us to follow up as we move forward during this year. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for those insightful words and also your continued support for our business community and all our diaspora as well. We hope we'll continue your support, continue to get your support over the rest of the year as well as back again soon. Just to kick off further, I want to invite Honorable Scott Farlow, MLC, representing the New South Wales government and the Premier. The Premier has just been to India, so it's very exciting times for New South Wales and New South Wales government. So definitely wanted to hear more from Honorable Scott Farlow. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Irfan, and thank you everyone for being here. I, of course, bring the greetings of the Premier to you here today, and I want to acknowledge my parliamentary colleague, the Honourable Robin Preston, who's here representing the Minister for Trade, the Honourable Alistair Henskins, and she is the Parliamentary Secretary for Science, Innovation and Technology. I also want to recognise my other parliamentary colleague, the Honourable Anne Chantavion, who's the Shadow Minister for Trade. It's great to see you here, as well as former parliamentarians Andrew Robb, of course, the former Federal Minister for Trade, my good friend Jodie Mackay, the former member for Strathfield and former Leader of the Opposition as well. And I want to particularly thank the Consul General for his wonderful address. The Consul General is a great friend of Australia and India. And as President Modi had talked of before, that bridge between the two countries being, of course, the diaspora. And that is so important. And I know that in his time as the CG in Australia, he has certainly cultivated that bridge and has, of course, linked business as well as government together. So I thank you very much for your remarks and your commitment to the Australia-India relationship. To our friends from Invest in India, I thank you very much for being here today. It's wonderful to see you back here. We were talking before about how much better life is without Zoom and how much better it is to be in a room like this with other people and having those little sidebar conversations, which are just so important in being able to come up with forging relationships and finding those business contacts. I know when we first went into the pandemic, I'd often, my wife did a lot more Zooms than I did in a sense, and she loved it. And she would say, this is fantastic, I don't have to leave the home, I don't have to travel, this is great. And she used to do a lot of international travel before. And I'd say to her, but what about those relationships? Like who in the future is going to say, I remembered you from that Zoom. I remember you were one of 50 people who were sitting on the Zoom with me listening to somebody else. But you will remember people in a room like this in years to come and wherever you may meet in business again. And that's one of the fundamental things that's so important about being together. And of course, to thank two great champions of the AIIBC, of course, Sheba, wonderful to see you here, and Barbara Ward as well, former AIIBC president and now the deputy mayor of my council in Ku-ring-gai in Sydney. So thank you very much. And the rubbish was picked up the other day, so I appreciate it. And how great it was to start today as well with both the smoking ceremony and the ceremonial lighting of the lamp, bringing together, of course, our two cultures. And I must say, when I went to India, one of the things that we actually discussed with a lot of people in India was actually our welcome to country. And I do want to pay my acknowledgements to our traditional owners, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and the important place that they play in our community as we've seen today. And I look forward to feeling that sense of the wattle and the eucalypt pass over us all as the day continues on. You can still smell it in the air, can't you? And I want to thank Irfan Malik in particular for putting today together. I know this is something he's been working on for a very long time with his board and has put his heart and soul into being able to see this vision realised here today. And he's got an excellent program of yesterday, today, and I believe tomorrow as well. And I'm going to try to join you for parts of it where I can. But it is important because the Australia-India relationship is growing. New South Wales, of course, sees India in our focus as well, not just on our periphery, Consul General, as you remarked on from Prime Minister Modi, but India is front and centre of our attention, and of course was remarked in the Premier's first overseas visit that India was indeed one of those destinations where he sought to focus on cultivating that relationship. Of course, Australia has, New South Wales, has a sister state relationship with both Maharashtra and an economic partnership agreement with the state of Gujarat as well. So we have a very large focus when it comes to India and being able to cultivate our relationships, and that was part of the Premier's visit. And of course there are emerging opportunities for New South Wales as well, with Bangalore in particular. The Consul General spoke of the focus on technology and the great work in terms of our two countries and being able to work together in technology. Bangalore, of course, being one of those hubs of technology. I must say I did some work in a past life for one of those companies, Wipro, so I know somewhat of the work that is done out of Bangalore and how Bangalore really is the Silicon Valley of India. And there are a lot of great emerging opportunities with a direct flight to come from Sydney to Bengaluru, which I think starts next month, so September. So there's a lot of great opportunities, and that's been part of the New South Wales Government's Aviation Attraction Fund as well. But of course we stand here today at a very, very important time, and that of course is the 75th anniversary of India's independence. And it was wonderful to see last week the Opera House lit up with the Indian flag, and how momentous that is. And that is a vision that shines throughout the world, not just in the colours, but the actual flag. And it was great to see the Consul General there, along with the Premier and the Minister for Multiculturalism, Mark Curé, in being able to celebrate that momentous occasion. And thank you to the Consul General for your hospitality, and I think accommodating probably most of this room at your reception at the Powerhouse Museum and the display that is on there as well, which is a great sign of both those cultural links as well between our two countries. And of course, it was at this time that the first Indian Prime Minister, Prime Minister Nehru, spoke of India's lasting tryst with destiny. And those words are truer than ever when we look at India's ongoing progress, innovation and prosperity today. This is particularly important when it comes to our relationship with India at this point as well. We, of course, in Australia have a long-standing friendship with India. As the Consul General has remarked, we were in fact part of the same landmass at one point in time. There is only one ocean that divides us, and there's nothing in between for a very, very long way. Our cultures are connected. Of course, there is the discussion that the Aboriginal people of Australia did, of course, emerge from the Indian landmass originally. I can say even in my own family tree, I can go back to my fifth great-grandmother who emerged from India, Dina Marguerite Victor, who came to this country. And when you look through those stories, that our countries have been connected through the people, effectively. It is our people which are our greatest asset. Of course, the Indian diaspora is growing in this country, and it continues to be our strongest asset. In Australia, of course, the last census has just been produced. We've seen that India has impressively moved past China and New Zealand to become the third largest country of birth behind Australia and England in our census, showing how large and significant the Indian diaspora is in this country and how important it is for this country's future, and how important it is for bringing the two countries together as well. In New South Wales alone, we are proud to have a very strong and vibrant Indian population of around 200,000 in our state. It is a cultural population which is rich in spirit, dynamism and ingenuity. It is an entrepreneurial group in our society, and that no doubt will be part of what you'll be exploring through this summit as well, looking at how we can link up the Australian-India relationship through our people. And of course, every single one of you in this room has a significant part to play in that story. And of course, that focus in New South Wales is particularly in Western Sydney. And there are so many opportunities in Western Sydney. We've, of course, see the development of the Aerotropolis and effectively what will be the third city in Western Sydney. And I, of course, note David Harding here from Business New South Wales. And I'm sure that David Borger would be here beating his chest about the opportunities in Western Sydney and particularly in Parramatta and beyond as well. And that is key in terms of developing our relationships. We, of course, have strong personal and economic links together. The Consul-General spoke of the advantages we have when it comes to technology, what we together in a partnership, of course, in education, where the Indian diaspora of international students is a growing market for us and one that we are focused on regaining after the pandemic and the interruption there. It is one, of course, that this government in New South Wales sought to support through the pandemic. Part of my role through the pandemic was in COVID recovery, and we, I can tell you, each and every week spent a significant amount of time thinking about our international students and the work that we needed to do to support them to remain in country, to find or remain in jobs, and to be able to still keep on with their university study. And the amount of work that we did with the federal government through many opportunities to try to get pilots to get international students back, and particularly looking at source countries like India. And it is a focus for all of our universities throughout New South Wales to get more and more Indian international students back into our country and into our universities. And of course, Australia is a resource-rich state. We had here only, I think, a month and a half ago, the Indian Minister for Resources and Mining, and of course discussing the challenges ahead when we think of climate change and we think of India's challenge not just for renewable power but power in general, to be able to come together in being able to supply those critical minerals that are needed as part of that transition to a renewable economy, but also the traditional coal resources that are also needed to meet India's current present energy needs as well. And Australia is part of that solution for India too. And our countries are working very closely on both the present demands but also on the future too. In 2020-21, between India and New South Wales, our two-way merchandise trade has reached $4.6 billion. Our trade relationship is set to boom and rebalance with the historic signing, of course, of the AIIBS. The agreement will almost double bilateral trade between Australia and India, taking it from $36.7 billion to $60 billion. Our trade priorities are focused on strategic growth sectors, including food and beverage, education and edtech, health, medtech, critical minerals, mining equipment, technology, services and clean tech. Through our networks of onshore and offshore advisors, we are delivering a comprehensive export program, including support for 11 high-growth New South Wales sectors and New South Wales edtech companies in those sectors to identify partners, distributors and end users. Travel between India and Australia has always played a special role. Prior to the pandemic, India was the fastest growing market to the New South Wales. And I've got to say, since the pandemic, well, the pandemic is still with us, but since we've got to another stage of the pandemic, we have seen, of course, that India, New South Wales direct travel has really boomed, and all airlines, whether it be Air India or Qantas and other airlines looking at coming into the market as well and servicing those destinations, are reporting a huge growth in terms of direct travel to India. We are also excited to bring Indian tourists on board new Qantas services from Sydney to Bengaluru starting from September 14, thanks to the $60 million Aviation Attraction Fund, which will make it simpler and faster to travel between the two countries. And I've got to say, I was at something recently with the Victoria's envoy to Victoria's envoy to India a few months ago in Melbourne, who kept on saying to me, no, you're not going to get the flights. No, Melbourne's going to get them. And of course, it has been secured for Sydney, which is a great thing. But Melbourne can have flights as well. We're happy for everyone to grow. But we're also proud and excited that our relationship between New South Wales and India continues to prosper. Representatives from the Department of the Department of Enterprise, Investment and Trade are here today. Sorry, I had education estimates yesterday, so the Department of Education is still on my mind. And I encourage you, please, to make contact with them, reach out with them and talk about the opportunities that exist for you as Indian businesses here in New South Wales as well. They are there to provide you with the support that you need to help in your journey into the New South Wales market and support you with all trade and export opportunities if you are, of course, a New South Wales business looking for export opportunities into India as well. With all that being said, the New South Wales government recognises that it's groups outside of government, groups like the AIIBC, that play such an important role in being able to foster trade. It's the 100 people that are in this room and the connections you'll make and the business cards you'll exchange today that will make the difference in finding export opportunities. I've got to say, in a past life, I worked on bringing some international trade envoys into Australia on trade missions, largely from the US. And I've got to say, the people who were most effective were the people who went around the room and exchanged business cards and found opportunities that they'd never imagined existed for them in Australia. And I encourage you to all do that today. It's up to you, every person in this room, to be able to make the most of this opportunity here today. Of course, the people from the New South Wales Department of Enterprise, Investment and Trade are here to help you as well. And I have no doubt that New South Wales, through the work of the people in this room, and India, will become closer, will explore more economic opportunities. And I must say, to borrow from Prime Minister Nehru again, the achievement we celebrate today is but a step, an opening of opportunity to the greater triumphs and achievements that await us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Scott Farlow. Thank you for those insightful words and also your support and continued support to our Business Council and also the community here. I must recognize especially the strong support we've received from the Indian government, the Commerce Ministry, and the fact that we have Invest India represented here as well. Most importantly, again, I want to thank Invest India, Deepak Baglaji and Sai as well, who really helped us connect as well and get support from Secretary DPIIT, Ministry of Commerce, Government of India, Mr. Anurag Jain, who's one of the most senior diplomat, part of the Ministry of Commerce. I'm glad that we've got his message here, so we'll just play his message.
It is my pleasure to address the gathering at Australia-India International Business Summit organized by Australia-India Business Council in Sydney. This initiative to put together this summit will greatly benefit both the nations. India and Australia are both democracies governed by rule of law and respect for diversities. These shared bonds are very important to promote economics of trade and investment. India and Australia also share very special bonds of business, sports, and Bollywood. The names like Sir Don Bradman, Shane Warne, Sachin Tendulkar, Kapil Dev are household names in both the countries. Indian cuisine in Australia is also very popular. I also want to compliment organizers for their theme, People to People Connect for business to business outcomes. As we all understand that the people to people connect is a real thing. So therefore, when people go for business deals, first they try to create the relationship, and that is what makes the bonds grow stronger, create an environment of trust. As I understand, more than 100 companies are already invested in India, and 700,000 India's diaspora in Australia is the second largest community in the country. We need to take this relationship further, make our ties grow stronger. Maybe we can have more exchange programs. I would request the business communities on both the sides, when your business partner comes from the other country, please ensure that you don't talk business alone. You also give him or her a holistic experience of your own country's culture, cuisine, value system, and tourism. India and Australia signed Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement in April 2022. This was an historic event. After more than 10 years, India had signed an economic treaty with a developed country. After that, our Honorable Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, led a delegation of Indian businessmen to Australia in April 2022. In return, the Australian delegation with similar goals came to India in August 2022. These exchanges have strengthened the relationship between the business communities, have helped them understand each other's concerns. I am sure that this exchange will strengthen the ties between the business communities and help the trade to grow. When the ECTA was signed, the trade between the two countries was pegged at about $25 billion. Our minister had given a clear vision that this trade needs to grow to about $100 billion by 2030. I am sure the kind of efforts which are being made by the communities on both the sides will ensure that we shall achieve this target. Quick recovery post-pandemic shows the resilience of India's diverse economy. India became the fastest growing large economy and is expected to remain so for many years to come. I take this opportunity to congratulate the Indian friends on completion of 75 years of India's journey post-independence. As our Honorable Prime Minister put that from now, that is India at 75 to India at 100, that is the Amrit Kal. Backed by strong reforms and macroeconomic stability, India is expected to grow at a very fast pace from about $3.2 trillion to $32 trillion in these 25 years. We have pursued a path of structural reforms over the last 8 years. We have pursued ease of doing business. In a matter of a small time of 5 years, from 2014 to 2019, India's rank on the World Bank ease of doing business improved from 142 to 63, a whopping 79. But we have continued with our effort, and we have our own business reform action plan, which actually nudges all the states to compete with each other and improve the business environment in the country. We have also liberalized our FDI policy. Now most of the sectors are on automatic route. One can invest through automatic route up to 100% in most of the sectors. Very few sectors require government approval, or investment up to 100% is not allowed. To give a flip to manufacturing, we have come out with very many supportive policies. One of the most important policy I would like to underline is the production linked incentive, where we give an incentive percentage of the production. Maybe it could be 6% in some sector, could be 10% in another sector. Across 14 sunrise sectors or core sectors where we want to concentrate, a package of about $26 billion has been announced, and they have already taken off. In 13 sectors, companies have already started commercial production. In addition to that, there is a separate package of $10 billion for semiconductor. We want to start manufacturing of chips in the country. I also want to bring to your notice the startup ecosystem in the country. In 2016, we launched a startup initiative. In a short period of 6 years, India's startup ecosystem has grown to become the third largest ecosystem in the world. Today, India boasts of more than 100 unicorns. We have more than 75,000 startups in the country. And what is more satisfying, that the startup initiative has taken deep and wide roots. They are now present in every state of the country. They are present in almost every district, more than 650 districts out of 700 odd districts in the country. And it has gender diversity. Almost 50% of the startups have at least one women director. India, as we know, is a land of frugal innovation. Can you guess how much was the cost of India's Mars mission? Just $75 million. Compare it to the cost of Mars mission of other countries. It is less than 5% or maybe 2-3% of what the Mars mission of US would have costed. What is more important, that it was successful in its first attempt. Going forward, one of the biggest strengths India has is the demographic dividend. We are investing. We have come out with our new education policy, and we are investing in our human resources like never before. We are skilling them. There are skill development programs. And this is something which is of interest to most of the countries now, because there's going to be a shortage of skilled manpower in many countries. And therefore, this is the biggest strength which India has going forward. I would like to request to my friends that this is the best time to invest in India. When you consider your next investment decision, please seriously evaluate. What I have told you is only a brief. We have an organization called Invest India, which will help you evaluate the proposals properly, and I am sure you will find that the value for your money when you take a decision to invest in India. In the end, I would like to once again appreciate this initiative of Australia-India Business Council and wish them success, and hope that this takes and strengthens the ties of the two countries and take it to the next orbit. Thank you.
Thank you, Shri Anurag Jainji. We extend our appreciation and thanks to Shri Anurag Ji. And I think really sets the tone. I mean, those were amazing words. And also, we were able to, also dissect a little bit and see some of those sectoral opportunities as well, and some of the pathway programs and great initiatives that's been highlighted. And I think during the course of the next day and a half, the deliberations and the business connect and the people connect, which will be enabled during this summit, we will try and definitely embark further to drive some of those outcomes, and some of those sectors we'll try and focus as well. I want to especially recognize the support of from Ambassador Anil Wadhwaji. He's been a great supporter of Australia-India bilateral engagement, business engagement, someone who really worked closely post the India economic strategy put together by Dr. Peter Varghese. He followed through with the government, with the Australia Economic Strategy 2020, and also further on as well. He's actively involved bilaterally. He sends a special message, and thanks to all of us. And he's definitely, he's in Singapore. He couldn't make it. He was looking to make it here. He has sent a message which will be played at the Business Connect session later. And I would strongly recommend, it'll be also posted online. I'll strongly recommend everyone to really listen to that, where there are quite a few sectorial, micro-sectorial opportunities that he discusses, and also explores avenues how we can engage bilaterally, and even some opportunities which are there immediately to pursue as well. So definitely I want to thank Anil Wadhwaji as well. As we continue this, that sets the scene with the message that we heard from Shri Anurag Jain, and introducing Invest India as the leading body representing the government, driving and the transformational direction of India, reaching out globally. And as the keynote address, I want to invite Deepak Baglaji to address us. Thank you.
I must change that picture, Irfan. That was a few decades ago when I still had some hair on the head. But truly a pleasure to be here. Thank you. And Irfan, thank you very much for getting us all. You know, as Scott was saying, to get everybody together away from those small little windows makes such a difference. It truly does. Dignitaries, excellencies, Manish, you were excellent. I can now see why you are the favorite here in Sydney. So we have to get you out of this place soon. But members of the parliament, friends from business, everyone, you know, my colleague Sai Sudha had created a 12-page PowerPoint presentation. They weren't trusting me for if they let me lose with the mic. What I thought is that I will share that presentation with you. But today, I'm here with people we've had a long relationship with over 300 years. Scott, you said that there's an ocean dividing us. That's the ocean bringing us together. It's an ocean, and you know what an ocean is about. It's depth, it's strength. And that's what this relationship is about. And what we've all gone through in the past 24 months has been horrific. It's been dreadful. And first, I want to thank you all for holding our hand as we walked through this entire challenging times. And I hope that we are towards the other end of it. But this relationship now shall continue. And more importantly, thank you for being with us on one of our most special days. Last week, when you had the tricolor colors in your buildings, for us back home in India, it made it very special. Thank you. Thank you truly. And I must tell you, that's a magnificent picture of the Opera House wrapped in that tricolor, which I'm trying to get enlarged for my own office. It means a lot to us. What I thought I'll just share with you today is what we are going through in India. And let me start with a statement that it's probably the most unprecedented transformation ever in the history of the free world. And I know it's a very strong statement. Let me just explain why I say that. And when I say unprecedented, it's unprecedented both in terms of the pace and the scale at which it is happening. Let me take you back a little to just pre-pandemic. 2019, we were the fastest growing large economy on the planet. In the previous 60 months, that is from 2015 to 19, we had moved ahead of Russia, Italy, Brazil, France. We'd equaled UK as the size of our GDP. $3 trillion. You see how fast that juggernaut is moving. Let me just share with you a few statistics to show why I'm talking of the pace and the scale, what we are talking about. To my mind, this is the first time in the history of India that what you are seeing as India together is one, where it is working. And when I say it is one, I mean everybody has that equal opportunity and equal participation in the growth of this juggernaut. 2015, the Honorable Prime Minister launched a mission called Digital India. In 2015, and you will all agree with me that data is the new oil, which will propel our growth going forward, right? 2015, my global ranking on per capita data consumption. And I'll say per capita, I'm not going to be unfair because anything multiplied by 1.3 billion could far outstrip everybody else. Per capita data consumption, my global ranking was 122. Scott, do you want to take a guess what it was late last year? Since you were with Wipro, I thought I might as well ask you that. Number one in the world. India today consumes more per capita data than the China and the US put together. And let me tell you, the story has only just begun because I am just about 800 on the net. I'm the second largest in the world on the net, the largest not yet on the net. And every second, 3 new people are joining the net, 2 of them from a village in India. And don't forget, 11% of the world's population lives in my villages. That is the pace at which it is moving. I have 1 billion people with a phone, 1 billion people attached to a bank account, 1 billion people with a unique identity number. And in the next 18 months, 1 billion on the net. You see the power of this juggernaut. And let me take you to the next point of it. Digitization is the new propellant of growth. You'll agree with me on that one. Last year, 41% of the world's real-time digital transactions happened in India. 41% of the world's real-time transactions. 48 billion real transactions took place. You know who was number 2? China, with 18 billion. That is the pace at which this country, this society, and this people are changing. You heard the Secretary speak about startups. Startup India was launched in January 16, 2016. It's my team which is responsible for the execution of Startup India. At that time, we had 454 startups. Today, what are we? Just about 72 months down the line? India is number 3 in the world in number of unicorns, number 2 in the world in number of startups, and number 1 in the world with new startups adding every day. In 2020, in the midst of the lockdown, I added a unicorn every 25, 26 days. Last year, again in the midst of the lockdown, I added a unicorn every 9 days. This story has just begun. I'm about, 9,000 days away from my 100th birthday. 15th August, 2047. On that day, 21% of the world's middle class will be in India. 20% of the world's workforce will be in India. I was just doing a quick math, and you know it well because you're also a country with federal states. I have 28 states and 8 special territories. My GDP growth is the aggregation growth of all of them together, right? A quick math was that if I looked at the growth of 2014 to 19, and I'm being fair here because I'm trying to look at it before the pandemic. If I just picked up which year was the highest growth of each of those states, and first I'm just giving you the potential, and I extrapolated it, I'll be a GDP of about 109 trillion. If I look at the average GDP of each of my states and extrapolate it, I'll be at 53 trillion. And if I continue growing at 7%, I'll be 31 trillion. CG told you we'll be the 3rd largest in the world. I'm 3 trillion. I should be about 10 by 2030, 31. That means in the next 7 years, I'll add $7 trillion to the bottom lines of each of those who've joined me in this journey. There's no one better than old friends to be with. They trust you. Investment is about trust. They have faith in you. Investment is about faith. And it is about opportunity. That, ladies and gentlemen, is where the new India has headed. The story has already begun. Let me give you an example. For 8 consecutive years, we've set up a new record for our FDI. From 2015 until now, we've got $532 billion, but what's more important, I got it from 161 countries. Today, 161 countries trust India for its leadership, trust India for its opportunity, trust India for its partnership, for its openness. And you know what's more important? It came across 61 sectors. The breadth of the opportunity in India is unmatched. It's unmatched because of this entire unprecedented transformation is what I'm talking about. And to me, which is most important, it came in 31 states and special territories of India. Today, each of my locations is now an equal participant in the growth of India. The new India, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just going to be propelled by those 6 to 7 metros of the world, which are out of India, but it is now bottom up from each and every of my 640,000 villages, from each and every of my 1.4 billion citizens, who now today have that equal opportunity and access to the things which come with growth, to participate in that growth, to create that momentum, and to partner with the world. So thank you for being with us today. And we at Invest India, we are your friends in that journey. Whatever, at any point of time, we have a special team dedicated to work with each and every one of you, and especially for Australia. We've got special agreements which have taken place. But most importantly, where I'm concerned, it's the people. It's the beating of those hearts, and it's the ability that we can all see each other. And what I'm a little unhappy about with this new trade agreement is that we will soon have our hockey sticks and bats here, which is going to be, again, a very unfair position because you know our bats and hockey sticks are excellent. But apart from that, I think it's time now. We are far away from the potential which we have together. Very far from that. And it is incumbent on each one of us in this room to work towards it. Thank you.
Oh, wow, what an amazing speech there. Thank you, Deepak Baglaji. It was inspiring. The call to action was amazing. Let's give an amazing round of applause to. And that's the new India narrative we will definitely focus on and showcase here as well. And I call upon everyone to take that call to action there. Reach out to Invest India. We've got Sai and Deepak here over the day and a half. But also, yeah, definitely we'll be happy to facilitate through AIIBS as well to have further outcomes as well. I want to call and I want to recognize Frances Lusson, who was supposed to be here. She's still traveling. She'll be with us this evening. DFAT's been a great supporter for this event and also, you know, some of the initiatives that we are undertaking. So Frances Lusson couldn't make it, but our champ here in Sydney, we've got Ari Nagar representing Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, just really to spark off the opportunity post-ECTA, going into SICA, as well as the Center for Australia-India Relations as well. Essentially, some of the elements that we will touch on during the course of this summit, and definitely want to take a cue from Ari's speech as well to take forward in the summit. Over to you, Ari.
Thank you so much, Irfan. And can I also just say that DFAT is very proud to be a supporter of this event, and in particular, the gala dinner tonight. We're so pleased that the Foreign Minister will be able to address tonight's proceedings. Can I also just pass on Frances Lusson's apologies? She's the Chief Negotiator of the ECTA and the Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement that's been referred to a number of times today. She's not able to make this session, but she will be travelling from Canberra later today. Look, as we've heard already, year by year, Australia and India have grown closer together. Recent years have really seen remarkable growth in our trading relationship, fueled by the many complementarities between our two economies. Two-way trade in goods and services has grown in value from 13.6 billion in 2007 to 24.3 billion in 2020. And in the 2021 financial year, India was our fifth largest export market. As we've already heard from speakers today, India's youthful population, its diversified economy and growth trajectory present really significant opportunities for Australian business. And they include across all of the sectors that this business summit will be delving into. You know, education, agriculture, energy and resources, tourism, healthcare, financial services, infrastructure, science and innovation, sport and more. Of course, Australia is also an increasingly important trade partner for India. Our commodities such as wool and cotton are important inputs to industry. India is a growing market for our world-leading critical minerals and our resources sectors. And Australian services are increasingly sought after in India, with our services exports roughly doubling in value over the past decade. So the economic opportunities between our countries are strong and they're growing. But of course, building on this, a very significant enabler of further opportunities has been the AIIBS, the Australia-India Economic Cooperation Trade Agreement, which was signed earlier this year. Concluding that was a very significant achievement. And now the Australian government is seeking to complete all the parliamentary and legal processes that are required to enable its entry into force as quickly as possible. When it does enter into force, AIIBS will provide competitive tariff elimination or tariff reduction on a wide range of Australian goods exports, and it will open up services markets for our suppliers in areas that will complement India's domestic reform priorities. Australian consumers will benefit from almost 96% of Indian goods exports entering Australia duty-free. And Indian consumers and businesses will benefit from the immediate elimination of tariffs on 85% of Australian goods exports to India, rising to almost 91% over 10 years. And that includes the elimination of high tariffs on a wide range of agricultural and industrial products, which will improve the opportunities for Australian exporters to supply to India. There's also really good mobility outcomes, and they will strengthen our existing people-to-people links, supporting our trade and business, our businesses to contribute to greater cultural exchange as well. Australia and India will establish a new framework for the recognition of professional qualifications as well, so that Australian professionals, such as architects, engineers and accountants, will benefit. Reflecting the importance of our education exports to India, Australia has also for the first time confirmed post-study work rights in what we call a side letter to the agreement, and that will extend access for highly sought-after graduates in STEM. Australia will also provide new access for young Indians to participate in working and holiday visas under our work and holiday program, which will contribute both to our workforce requirements as well as to our tourism recovery. And outcomes under the agreement will also support investment, as Australia has agreed to provide a limited increase in the Foreign Investment Review Board screening threshold to $500 million for investments in services sectors. But I will just note, not in mining, agriculture, forestry, manufacturing or fisheries. The AIIBS is actually the first time that India has made a most favoured nation commitment on services to any FTA partner. And what this means is that India is effectively guaranteed to afford Australia the best treatment it offers to any future FTA negotiating partner in 31 service sectors and subsectors. That includes higher and adult education, a range of business services, banking and insurance services, and some tourism and travel services, as well as providing full or partial market access for Australian firms across 10 service sectors. Now, the next step, of course, is to build on AIIBS and to conclude an ambitious comprehensive economic cooperation agreement, or CECA, which will further capitalise on the enormous potential for closer economic ties and deepen the links between our economies and our people. CECA negotiations will cover market access and issues which are not covered under the AIIBS, such as digital trade, cooperation, and government procurement. We will seek to improve market access for services as well, for industrial products, for agriculture, and promote two-way investment, whether that's in CECA or in a parallel agreement. But while AIIBS and CECA are strong markers of our growing importance to each other, there's also a breadth of other areas in which the Australian government is working to bolster our economic ties. So beyond FTAs, the Australian government is implementing key initiatives in the India Economic Strategy Update, which remains a key framework document that's guiding our economic partnership with India and looks out to the next 5 years with a specific plan of action. This includes a new Consulate General in Bengaluru, connecting Australian businesses to India's new economy and innovation ecosystem. This will be the 5th diplomatic post that we have in India, and rightly so in India's Silicon Valley. Also in Bengaluru, we're standing up a Centre of Excellence for Critical and Emerging Technology Policy, which will influence the development of policies, norms, and standards that govern the ethical use of critical and emerging technologies in the Indo-Pacific region and globally. We're also convening the Australia-India Infrastructure Forum, which will smooth the path for Australian businesses to engage with India's vast infrastructure plans. And there's the India-Australia Critical Minerals Investment Partnership, amongst others, which will help to drive forward India's manufacturing of solar panels, batteries, and electric vehicles. So both in the realm of FTAs and beyond, the Australian government is continuing to work assiduously to accelerate our ties, to deepen and broaden our economic partnership with India. Let me conclude there. Thank you, Irfan, and thank you, colleagues at the AIIBS. Can I say again, it's a pleasure for DFAT to be supporting this event, to be involved, for my colleagues and senior officials to be involved in the various roundtables today, and for our Foreign Minister to address the session tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ari, for those insights that you shared and full support from Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. And we're looking forward to Francis Lusson, our Chief Negotiator for ECTA and CICA from Australia, to join us this afternoon, and also for a few other colleagues as well from DFAT who will be joining various sessions this afternoon. The gala dinner, we have an amazing panel as well, where we'll have Francis Lusson, Deepak Baglaji as well, Consul General there as well. Will be very exhilarating, and will be moderated by Jody McKay, our friend of AIIBS. Just conscious of time and the shortness of time, I have to recognize Dipen is here, so I want to recognize Dipen, who's present here. He's not going to speak today now. He has spoken yesterday, very amazing insights from a recent trip they had as part of Western Australia delegation to India. Very impressive trip. Dipen and Natasha, his colleague, they shared some of the key insights and outcomes from that session. So please do say hello to Dipen, and also we'll be posting some of those messages and videos online for you to all to connect. But definitely I'll request you all to connect with Dipen as well during the course of rest of the session. Thank you, Dipen. Now I invite one of our major sponsors and a partner and a strong partner of New South Wales, Business New South Wales, David Harding, the Executive Director of Policy and Advocacy, to come and say a few words. Thank you.
Well, lunch is coming out, so I shall attempt to keep this very snappy so that you don't get hungry while I'm talking. Also, after Irfan, Manish, Scott, Deepak and Ari, I was fast running out of things novel and new to say as these amazing speeches were going on. I particularly call out, I think, Scott, thank you, and Deepak, so inspiring in what you had to say. And Scott, I'll certainly pass back to David Borgia that I will mention that I mentioned Western Sydney, and I'll start with mentioning Western Sydney because Western Sydney is where it all comes together. Western Sydney is that wonderful part of New South Wales, wonderful part of Australia, where the Indian diaspora is so strong, and where India and Australia meet in person and do such great things, both in community and in business. So a call out there for Western Sydney. Thank you, Scott, for reminding me of that. I'd also like to acknowledge the Gadigal people on whose land I stand today, and acknowledge those elders, past, present and emerging, and of course any First Nations people at this conference over the next couple of days, acknowledge them. So very quickly, our purpose at Business New South Wales is to strengthen and support all Australian businesses. And we're proud to have a 200-year history, or almost 200-year history, here in Sydney and New South Wales. So on behalf of Business New South Wales, to those VIPs, those dignitaries and those very special people who've made the journey from India to be here today and tomorrow, very, very, very warm welcome from Business New South Wales. We do have 90,000 business members in Australia, and we're growing fast, and we think this summit is just fantastic. It brings that new spotlight and awareness of the opportunities for India and New South Wales to come together and expand existing markets, build stronger bridges from bridges that already exist, and build bridges where there aren't them already. And certainly the opportunity here for New South Wales and in particular to take advantage of the new ECTA, to expand our own investment into India and encourage Indian investment to come here in New South Wales, as our own economy is no laggard. It's going very well. Growth and demand in New South Wales is growing. Demand for our products and our services around the world is also growing. So it's a wonderful time to come together around the ECTA. We had the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership in 2020, and that really was a bit of a start of an eye-opener. But now with the ECTA in place, it's a time to take advantage of a historic moment. It's a moment in time that Australia really hasn't seen. We've heard from Deepak the importance to India of this relationship, and we as leadership here in New South Wales need to recognise that offer of friendship, that offer of generosity, that offer of recognition, and take full advantage of it at this time. So again, I think this summit is a great opportunity to educate and inform New South Wales and Indian business leaders and government, but mainly a time to build and strengthen on those human bonds and ties that we have. The diaspora here in Australia is alive and well. It's growing, it's strengthening, it's committing, and it's contributing more and more to the life of Australia, and particularly here in New South Wales, as we've already heard. And Business New South Wales stands shoulder to shoulder with Irfan and the AIIBS. We look forward to a future of economic prosperity with great optimism and great hope. I think we should enjoy today, I think we should enjoy tomorrow, but really we should look forward to future decades of doing great business and really building a better world together between Australia and India. It's an opportunity we have in hand. It's an opportunity that we need to take advantage of, not just for this generation, but for the generations to come. So on that note, enjoy your lunch. I thank Irfan and the organisers, and again, thank and welcome all those esteemed attendees and VIPs who've made the journey here today and tomorrow to Sydney. Thank you very much, and enjoy your lunch.
Thank you. As we come to the concluding part, thank you, David, again for all your support from Business New South Wales and your team as well, supporting us with this session and also throughout the program here. I want to invite Tim Regan to formally wrap up the session with the vote of thanks as we roll into the next session in the education sector, future of skills and edutech focus session in a short while. And please enjoy your coffee break as well, which is being served on the table. Over to you, Tim.
Thank you very much, Irfan. I know tea and coffee is just coming around, so if we could just have your attention for a couple of minutes. My honour is to give a vote of thanks to our inspiring speakers this morning, who have really set the foundation for the Australia-India International Business Summit this morning. I'd particularly like to thank our Consul General, Mr. Manish Gupta. You're a great friend of the Australian-India economy, and you're very much leading the way in our relationship. I'd also like to thank the MLC representative, Scott Farlow from New South Wales Government. It's very much appreciated, Scott, your support and your presence and passion here today. Mr. Anurag Jain, who was online today, was absolutely fantastic, having a senior representative from the Indian government encouraging us to invest, and that was very much seen by Mr. Deepak Bagla. It's great to have you here, sir, in the country, and thank you for being so inspiring and being the face of India Invest. Ari Naga was from DFAT, mentioned AIIBS and government initiatives. Thank you for that. And David, thank you for taking us forward with Business New South Wales. So on that note, we've set a wonderful foundation. We've heard of the support for the Australia-India business relationship, which is very much based on people to people and business to business. And I used this line last night, but I'll use it again if that's okay. The future belongs to those who see it coming, and that future is India. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim. We've got quite a few sessions coming up, but also do check us out on the AIIBC website, some of the programs that we've done. I want to now invite Sheba Nankyoliar. I've just been reminded to please, if you can, check in our tech partner solution, MindHive, to engage on this deliberation, this summit conversations online on our MindHive app. All these sessions, all these sectors are being discussed through our online channel from our folks who are joining us virtually as well. So let me invite Sheba to
maybe you can call out people.
Yeah, to offer a token of memento and thanks, appreciation. If I can call Honourable Scott Farlow, please, to the stage.
So while Scott's coming up on the stage, I just did want to talk about what we are presenting to some of our special guests today. And that's something, Mr. Walia? That's Mr. Harmohan Walia, a great friend of the Indian community, who actually featured challenges, successes of Indian businesses. So he's featured 75 Indian businesses on the 75th year, and another 25 businesses, which was done, I think, 2 years ago, a year ago. And that's 100 very successful Indian business owners that you can read about, Scott.
Excellent.
That'll make some good night reading.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I invite Honourable Robin Preston, MP, to come to the stage, a token of appreciation and thanks for you making it.
Thank you, Robin. Here we go. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I think you'll have some stories who are there from your constituency too.
Now I invite Honourable Anulak Shantiwong to the stage as a token of appreciation and thanks.
So you won't be able to get away from those 100 business owners.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Now I especially invite Deepak Baglaji, CEO of Invest India, to come to the stage. He's been a very special speaker. Thank you, Deepak Baglaji. That was quite inspiring, and we really appreciate you taking the time.
And we would really like to appreciate Deepak. You have been probably one of the longest partners we've had with Australia-India Business Council since the inception, and we really appreciate this partnership. And thank you so much for being with us today. You've got 100 business owners from Australia featured here. Come.
Thank you all. And we will just roll into our next session very shortly. So enjoy your coffee, and we'll start in a few minutes now. Thank you. So just a few announcements. So we'll kick off the education, future of education, future of skills, edutech session in this ballroom. In parallel, in a short while, we will be starting the session on defense, cybersecurity, and space tech upstairs on level 2 in Studio 1 and 2. And we also have in Studio 3 the FinTech Financial Services session starting shortly as well. Just to repeat that, we'll have the defense, cybersecurity, space tech startups showcase session upstairs on level 2 in Studio 1 and 2, which will start in the next 10 to 15 minutes. And we will also have the FinTech Financial Services sector focus session at Studio 3 upstairs on level 2. So